Patricia stood by my hospital bed, pretending to be concerned. "Such a shame about the brake failure," she said, trying to look sympathetic, but I could see the slight smile she tried to hide. She watched me struggle to reach for my water glass, clearly enjoying my pain. "I'm Emma Carter, and 3 days ago, my mother-in-law tried to kill me. It happened on a quiet Sunday afternoon. I was driving home from my nursing shift when my brakes failed on Mason Hill Road, the steepest street in our town. The brake pedal went straight to the floor, and nothing could stop the car. But instead of panicking, I used my emergency training. I downshifted, pulled the emergency brake, and steered the car into a ditch. It saved my life. I knew then that the accident wasn't an accident at all." Earlier that day, Mike, the mechanic who checked my car, showed me his phone with a serious look. "Someone cut your brake lines on purpose," he said. He even had security footage showing Patricia sneaking into his shop the night before, wearing big sunglasses to hide her face. She said she was just there to borrow some sugar. Patricia never liked me. From the day I married her son James 5 years ago, she made it clear that I wasn't the kind of wife she wanted for him. I was just a nurse from a middle-class family, not the high-society woman she had imagined. But I never thought she hated me enough to kill me. Patricia adjusted her scarf and continued, "The doctors say you're recovering well." What a relief. James was so worried. "Good thing you both got that life insurance policy last month. The one I recommended." There it was, the $2 million life insurance policy Patricia insisted we get, with her as the backup beneficiary. At the time, it seemed like just another one of her controlling ideas. But now, lying in his hospital bed, it was obvious why she wanted it so badly. "Yes, good thing," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "The police should finish their investigation soon." I watched her face closely. Her calm mask slipped just a little. "Investigation?" She tried to laugh. "That's not necessary for a simple accident, is it?" "Oh, didn't you know?" I said. "They found evidence of tampering. They're checking all the security cameras in the area." Patricia gripped her purse tighter. "I'm sure it's just a formality," she said quickly. "Small-town police always make a big deal out of nothing." Just then, James walked in, looking tired but relieved to see me. "Hey, love. How are you feeling?" he asked, his smile warm and genuine. "Better now that you're here," I said, grateful for his support. No matter how hard Patricia tried to cause problems, James always stood by me. Patricia put on her fake worried mom look. "James, you should take a break. I'll stay with Emma." "Actually, Mom," James said, hesitating. "The nurse mentioned some unusual bruising on Emma. They think the police should look into it." Patricia's face went pale. "The police?" she stammered. "They think someone did this on purpose. They're checking all possibilities," James said, "including brake tampering." Patricia put her hand to her throat, pretending to be shocked. Who would do such a thing? I looked her right in the eyes. "Yes," I said. "Who indeed?" Patricia quickly made up an excuse about a charity meeting and hurried out. James and I exchanged a look. He'd noticed her panic, too. What Patricia didn't know was that Mike gave all the evidence, the cut brake lines, the security footage, to the police. She thought she had the perfect plan to get rid of me, but her scheme was about to blow up in her face. As I lay in my hospital bed, I realized Patricia wasn't just trying to kill me. She had been manipulating us for years, but her plan had failed, and now the truth was coming out. The fight wasn't over, it was just getting started. Patricia visited me in the hospital, still pretending to be concerned. She didn't know that her world was about to fall apart. A few days later, Detective Martinez questioned her right in my hospital room. "Mrs. Shaw," the detective said, using Patricia's maiden name, "why was your car seen at Morgan's auto shop the night before the accident?" Patricia tried to stay calm, but I saw her confidence start to crack. James stood by the window, watching his mother with disbelief. "I was just borrowing sugar from Emma and James's house," Patricia said quickly. "I must have driven by the shop on my way home." At 11:30 p.m., Detective Martinez raised an eyebrow. "That's pretty late for baking." Patricia's hand shook as she adjusted her fancy watch. "I host charity brunches. They require a lot of planning." The detective didn't back down. "The security footage shows you spending 20 minutes under Emma's car. That's a long time to be borrowing sugar." Patricia turned pale. She hadn't realized that the shop had new security cameras. Mike had shown me the video, clear as day, of Patricia cutting the brake lines. "There's been a mistake." Patricia said, her voice losing its usual confidence. I would never. Emma is like a daughter to me. I almost laughed. Patricia had spent 5 years trying to ruin my marriage. She always found ways to exclude me from family events and constantly told James he could do better. James stepped forward, his face hard. Mom, they found your fingerprints on the brake lines. Patricia looked at him in shock. James, you don't believe this, do you? They also found the wire cutters in your garden shed. He continued, his voice shaking, with Emma's blood on them. Patricia's carefully built world started to collapse. The police had searched her house and found the wire cutters she used. They also found a letter she was writing to the life insurance company hated before my accident. I can explain, Patricia started, but Detective Martinez didn't let her. We also found something interesting about the life insurance policy on your first daughter-in-law, the detective said. I looked at James confused. I didn't know about this. James's first wife, Sarah, had died in an accident 10 years ago, before I met him. Patricia never talked about her, except to make comparisons that made me feel like I didn't measure up. That was different, Patricia snapped, then quickly shut her mouth, realizing her mistake. Detective Martinez leaned in. Different how? The room went quiet. James's face went pale as he realized what Patricia was admitting. Mom, he whispered, his voice shaking. What did you do to Sarah? Patricia jumped up, clutching her purse. I don't have to listen to this. I'm leaving. But Detective Martinez had other plans. She nodded to two officers standing at the door. Mrs. Shaw, we need you to come with us. We have questions about Sarah Thompson's accident in 2013. As the officers led Patricia away, her usual calm was gone. She struggled, her hair falling out of place. James, you can't let them do this. I did it all for you. But James didn't move. He sat next to me, holding my hand as we watched his mother being taken away. When she was gone, he looked at me, his eyes full of pain. I can't believe Sarah's accident. I never even questioned it, he said, his voice breaking. Mom always told me Sarah wouldn't want me to grieve too long. I squeezed his hand, thinking about how close Patricia had come to getting rid of me too. But unlike Sarah, I had survived, and I had exposed Patricia for who she really was. Detective Martinez turned to us. We're reopening the investigation into Sarah Thompson's death. Mr. Carter, we'll need to talk to you about your mother's actions back then. James nodded, still in shock. I remembered Patricia's smug smile when she visited me in the hospital, thinking she had won. But she had underestimated me. Her perfect plan had failed, and instead of getting another insurance payout, she was facing prison for both my attempted murder and the death of James's first wife. The game was over, and Patricia had lost everything. The trial happened 6 months after my accident. I was fully healed but more aware of how close I'd come to dying. Patricia sat at the defendant's table, no longer polished and perfect. Her fancy clothes were replaced by plain ones, and gray roots showed in her once perfect hair. The evidence against her was clear. The courtroom watched security footage of Patricia cutting my brake lines. They showed the life insurance policy she took out on me and on Sarah, James's first wife. But what really sealed her fate was the new evidence about Sarah's death. The investigation into Sarah Thompson's death showed that her car was tampered with, just like Emma's, the prosecutor told the jury. We found Patricia Shaw's fingerprints on documents canceling an autopsy, papers she had no right to sign. I glanced at James. He listened to the details of Sarah's death, his face tense. I could see the pain and anger he had been hiding for years. When he testified, his voice was steady, but his words were sharp. My mother controlled everything, he said, looking right at Patricia. She picked my friends, my career, even my wives. But when they didn't fit her idea of perfect, she got rid of them. He paused, his voice breaking just a little. She killed them. Patricia tried to defend herself by claiming she was protecting James from gold diggers and social climbers. But the facts told a different story. Sarah and I both had our own jobs and money. The only threat we posed was to Patricia's control over her son's life. It took the jury less than 3 hours to decide. On the charge of attempted murder of Emma Carter, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of first-degree murder of Sarah Thompson, we find the defendant guilty. Patricia finally lost her calm. James, she screamed as the guards took her away. I did it all for you. They weren't good enough for you. But James didn't look at her. He held my hand as the judge sentenced her to life in prison without parole. Reporters surrounded us as we left the courthouse. How does it feel to know your mother-in-law tried to kill you? One asked. Do you have any comments on solving Sarah Thompson's case? James put his arm around me protectively and said, my mother caused pain to a lot of people. Today justice was served. That's all we have to say. That evening, we sat in our living room, still processing everything. The house felt lighter, as if a heavy weight had been lifted. I talked to Sarah's parents after the trial. James said quietly. They always felt something was off about her accident but couldn't prove it. They thanked us for helping them find the truth. I held his hand. They have closure now. So do we. James let out a bitter laugh. You know the sad part? Mom was always scared of losing me, of losing her place in my life. In the end, she did just that. Her actions pushed me away. The doorbell rang. It was Mike, the mechanic whose security footage was key to convicting Patricia. He stood awkwardly at the door. I just wanted to see how you're doing, Mrs. Carter. When I saw those cut brake lines, he shook his head. Well, I'm glad you're still here. Some people get what they deserve. After Mike left, I thought about Patricia, now alone in a prison cell. Her need for control cost her everything, her freedom, her son's love, and her image of being the perfect mother. That night, James and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. The air was warm and smelled of summer. For the first time in months, I felt truly at peace. James looked at me and asked, what now? I smiled, thinking about the future, a future without Patricia's dark influence. Now we live our lives the way we want. No more looking over our shoulders. No more fear. Patricia had tried to end my story, but she ended her own instead. And my story was just beginning. Sometimes justice comes in unexpected ways. And sometimes surviving is the best revenge.